Looking at a statistic that somebody else did means that you have no skin in the game, which means you have no accountability or responsibility for any information that you're going to intake and then put out. You obfuscate all responsibility for the actual fucking work. So
I mean, you understand, I'm not going to want, like, just how much the price has gone up for one item or a few specific items. I'm going to want, like, in general, how much has the price level gone up? And this is what, like, CPI and other inflation measures exist for.
Yeah,
so CPI does almost exactly what you just said. It tracks the price of goods. You made it sound like you don't believe in CPI, basically. You said, is that from a Democrat-funded source? Like,
yeah, and that's pretty much going to be my answer with all statistics.
I guess, can we agree that inflation has come down in recent months?
No, the fucking cost at the shelf hasn't went down. And it's not going to go down. That's the fucking problem.
A stimulus bill or quantitative easing. I would say a stimulus bill is probably going to be a bigger factor in this. Do we agree that is going to increase aggregate demand?
No, it's not going to increase aggregate demand.
The stimulus bill is not going to increase aggregate demand. Giving people money is not going to...
No, it's not going to increase aggregate demand. Demand is still going to be there, right? Period.
Okay, wait. You just said there, the temporary stimulus, okay? That would seem to agree with me. The stimulus the stimulus effect is that people are spending more money because they have more money.
Oh, Jesus Christ, this is exactly why I don't talk to young kids, because as soon as you hear one fucking word, you jump on it like you understand the whole fucking thing, and you haven't even bothered to say, you know what, I'm going to go back and I'm going to get an education. What, expecting to get put on the spot?
I wasn't, no.
That's not how I do business.
Oh, all right, based.
I'm about the education more than I am the content, so.
Oh, okay.
I got a few minutes.
You have what?
So I got a few minutes before I go take a shower and head to bed. So I was like, let me talk to this guy right quick.
Well, let's remind me more in a few minutes for me to explain this more in depth. Okay. It seemed like in the council debate, you like briefly mentioned, I think you guys were like disputing about how much inflation was at, and like council brought up that inflation with the CPI was back at 2.9%, and you seem to have an issue with that. Do you not believe CPI? Do you like? What are our feelings on that?
I put it like this, man. I pretty much stopped paying attention to all the statistics and all of the shit, because at the end of the day, none of that stuff actually fucking matters. What matters is how much am I being paid per hour to do a job, and then how much of this is the cost of everything at the store. You know, those things matter. And that's really what most everyday people are going to be looking at anyway. You know, people can have their head buried in the sand and the statistics and continue to, you know, repeat the same rhetoric over and over to try to build, you know, a facade of reality that online people are going to be the ones that are your audience for only. You know, for me, I am going to stay rooted in reality for everyday people, because that's the shit that I have to worry about every fucking day. It doesn't make me any fucking money to sit there and bury my head in the sand with the statistics of the narrative that I feel like that all of these assholes are trying to paint, right? Well, like I said, if you go watch the video that I posted in the Discord, that does a good job of taking you through the currency from like 60 years ago, right, to what it is today. And then, do you actually have any more? And the answer is no. You have the same, but they're taking more away from us.
Well, so, I guess you're right in that what matters is, you know, to a lot of people, is how much things cost and how much they're getting paid per hour. But if I'm trying to find out, like, in general, like how much the price of things have gone up, I'm probably going to look at statistics, right? I'm going to have to use statistics to answer that question.
If you want to, just do a Google search of a particular item that you buy pretty regularly and see what the difference in cost is, and then do the math, and you'll get a percentage increase, at least on that one thing specifically. And then you might go down and do the same thing with other things, and you do it yourself. Looking at a statistic that somebody else did means that you have no skin in the game, which means you have no accountability or responsibility for any information that you're going to intake and then put out. You obfuscate all responsibility for the actual fucking work. So
I mean, you
no.
understand, I'm not going to want like just how much the price has gone up for one item or a few specific items. I'm going to want like in general, how much has the price level gone up? And this is what like CPI and other inflation measures exist for.
Yeah,
so CPI does almost exactly what you just said. It tracks the price of goods, and it calculates the percentage increase for them, and then it puts them all together in a weighted average. So like, housing is counted more than the price of food because housing is generally a greater expense for people. What you just described is basically what CPI is. That's what it exists to do. Hello?
Oh, I'm here. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the Consumer Price Index, while I am not an expert on it, is going to do the same thing, which is it's going to be tracking certain markets, and then it's going to put up a statistic based off of the certain prices that it's tracking, right? What I'm telling you to do as an individual is to start tracking and going back and tracking the cost of things yourself. Then compare that to the CPI and then see how accurate it is. If it's accurate, then you know that it's a good source and that you can trust it. If it's not, then maybe you start questioning the things that are happening around you. But track the cost of the things that matter to you.
But that doesn't give me the answer I'm looking for.
To me, the cost went up a fucking lot, so.
Sure. But like when I'm basically when I'm trying to figure out, when I'm having political conversations, I don't want to talk about, what prices matter to me. What I really want to know is like how much the price level has gone up in aggregate. And CPI is a much better indicator.
How is it? Okay, so then how is it from the conversation with Sansol that you felt like that I was going to be the one that was going to answer that question for you?
Repeat that question?
Okay, so based off of the conversation that you saw with Sansol, what got said in there that made you think that I was going to be the one to answer that question?
Well, I mean, you were talking about inflation, and Soundsell pulled up CPI, and then you made it sound like you don't believe in CPI. Basically, you said, is that from a Democrat-funded source? Like,
yeah, and that's pretty much going to be my answer with all statistics, which is why I basically tell people that I don't give a fuck about statistics. I don't care, right? Like, someone's trying to paint a picture with the statistics that they chose. That's known from the start. Doesn't matter if it's good, bad, indifferent, right? There's a picture that they're trying to paint. So if they're trying to paint a picture with statistics and I can go find the statistics myself and put them together from different sources and then say, look, I've got statistics from all this and this shows this, and disregard the ones that don't do that, then I can be doing the same thing as everybody else.
So but who do you think is painting a picture here? Do you think the Bureau of Labor Statistics?
Everyone. Fucking everyone. Anyone that does it.
So you think when the Bureau of Labor Statistics, these are just everyday economists who track the prices of things. What picture are they trying to paint?
Every single one that happens, someone has a reason as to why they're bothering to do the fucking work at all.
Well, do you know why they try to calculate inflation?
Okay. Wait, what?
Do you know why the Bureau of Labor Statistics? Well, part of the reason why they try to calculate inflation?
To waste more of my tax dollars' time.
Sure. Maybe that's one reason. But one other reason that they do it, okay, let's assume that's the reason. Another big reason that they do it is so that the Federal Reserve has an indicator of how much inflation, of where inflation is at. That's a big important reason. The Federal Reserve, which operates independently of the government, it's like a quasi-government institution. It's not really a part of the government. They need to have accurate data on what inflation is like so they can make decisions revolving the interest rate. I don't have any reason to believe that the economists who work at the Bureau of Labor Statistics are painting a narrative with their data when their job is just to track prices to determine or to help the Fed decide what the interest rate should be, essentially.
Fed's just I would say, primarily responsible for the situation that we find ourselves in.
I mean, I would it entirely. Well, what's the situation we find ourselves in?
The fact that it exists, but that's a whole different conversation.
So, I mean, I guess can we agree that inflation has come down in recent
No,
months? We
no,
can't
the
agree on
fucking
that.
cost at the shelf hasn't went down, and it's not going to go
Wait,
down. That's the
that's not
fucking problem.
that's not in that's a different thing though. That's cumulative inflation. What I'm talking about is inflation. The rate at which the price increases have happened has gone down. Do we agree or disagree on that?
No, we disagree.
Okay. How, if you don't trust CPI, presumably you don't trust other measures of inflation too. Is there anything I could possibly show you that would indicate that
How
inflation
old are
has
you?
slowed? How
How
old
old
am
are you?
I?
Yeah,
I'm 18.
you're 18. How old do you
Yeah.
suspect I am?
30 something.
30 something. Okay, so you thought that you just were going to have the magic thing to just, dude, I don't. The fact of the matter is, when it comes to understanding what it is that I'm talking about and what it is that I feel like you need to understand, the best place to start that would be at the video that I shared with you to begin with. I don't feel like you understand how devalued the currency has become in even just the last 100 years. And then you're sitting here wanting to talk to me about CPI over the last 3 years when it comes to this fucking administration. To me, it's a
Well,
waste of my fucking time. Like, I want you to understand the last 100 years.
I
Because
mean,
the fact of the
do you
matter
think
is
there,
that if
do you
you're
think
not
there are,
understanding that part of it, then the last 3 years CPI conversation is just it's like all you're doing is vying for a candidate because that's what you fucking believe in, and you don't understand anything about actual administrative government actually holding value of the currency, doing anything that prospers a fucking nation. All you're doing is talking about a fucking candidate because you believe or some shit.
okay, one, that doesn't answer my question at all. I don't know what I could possibly show you to show that inflation has slowed if you don't believe like anything, any of these statistics. And two, do you think there's ever a positive trade-off to devaluing a currency at all?
No, because the devaluing of the currency robs the people.
Well, here's an interesting question. Okay. So if we're saying that, devaluing a currency is going to like cause inflation, which robs the people, do you think there's ever like positive employment? Well, do we agree that if we print money or do like these type of stimulus bills, that there's going to be an increase in aggregate demand?
You're saying quantitative easing to create
Well,
aggregate demand?
yeah, either quantitative easing or like the stimulus bills that Joe Biden and Trump did. Yeah, like the COVID spending bills.
All you'll ever do is okay, I'm gonna give you a real world scenario to maybe break it down for you.
Okay.
Let's say you're wanting to let's see. You got a friend, right? And
Yep.
they want to, I don't know, fucking start a business, right? So they're like,
They're like,
trying to put this together, and sometimes you got to take a break because I don't want to like build a scenario and you'd be in the middle of it and be fucked up. You know what I mean?
um, sure.
All right. So you already know that the Federal Reserve is not a part of our system, right?
A part of what system? It's not necessarily directly part of the government.
The government is our system. It's the only
Okay.
system that we the people, right? Let's understand let's build the framework of conversation and understanding in which I'm addressing the issue first, right? We, the people, have a system. That system is the government. The Federal Reserve is not a part of that system, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
The Federal Reserve issues the currency, right?
Yeah. They can. Yeah.
On as a promissory note to the government, that the government will then pay interest back on the currency that the Federal Reserve has printed, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that means that every dollar printed by the Fed comes with an interest payment.
Yeah.
So there's your first problem is there's already money there's more than the dollar owed after it's been printed. You'll never be able to repay that debt. Okay? Then the government wants to continue to spend more money than it's actually taking in taxes, right? Using the fact
Yep.
that the United States is the global reserve currency. So in essence, what you have here is I'm going to continue to take in
This
credit
is not
card
answering
debt,
my
right?
question at
As
all.
soon as
I
the
don't.
people are sending me, applications to credit cards and shit like that, because every dollar spent there, right, in my real world application is coming at the same as the Federal Reserve, right? It's coming with an interest payment. So I'm going to continue to pay my bills and do everything, right? And then also help my friends start their business. And I'm doing all of this with the credit cards. How much harder do you think it is to pay off that debt yourself
It's probably going to be harder.
versus if you were only spending money that you were working and earning?
Probably going to be
You see
harder.
what I'm saying?
But that's not really an answer to my question. I'm just okay. So if we do either a stimulus bill or quantitative easing, I would say stimulus bill
We
is probably
should
going to
do
be a
neither.
bigger factor in this. Do
Neither.
we agree that is going to
Neither.
increase aggregate demand?
No, it's not going to increase aggregate demand.
The
It's going to.
stimulus
It's
bill
going
is
to.
not going to increase aggregate demand. Giving people money is
No,
not
it's
going
not
to.
going to increase aggregate demand. Demand is still going to be there, right? As a matter of fact, what I would call it is more of a latent demand because people can't afford the fucking things that they have or that they need now. So as soon as you give them money, of course they're going to buy the things that they already need. So I wouldn't call it an aggregate demand. I would call it a latent need.
Well, I'm just saying if we give people money, they're going to demand more things, right?
Don't zoom past it. Not Do you agree with the fact that it would be a latent need and not an aggregate demand?
Whether do you know what aggregate
Yes or
demand
no?
means? No, I
Yes
don't
or
agree.
no? Then how in the fuck are you expecting to have a conversation?
I don't think you do. You know what
Because you're
aggregate
wanting
demand?
to control the narrative with this point of an aggregate demand versus a latent need. And you're not understanding the state of the economy in which people don't have enough fucking money and you're expecting them to just it's silly, dude.
Okay,
It's silly.
regardless of if people don't have enough money to meet their needs or whatever, okay, that's fine. Okay, that means their demand is lower, right? Their demand is actually so low that they can't afford the things they need. If we give them money, if we give them the stimulus checks that Trump and Biden gave them during COVID, for example, that's going to increase their demand, right? They're going to buy more goods, even if it's goods that they need.
It's not going to increase demand. Jesus, it's not increasing demand. Demand is something that is going to be there regardless. Once that money gets spent, and say there's a little bit extra, then the so-called demand goes away. That's why I would call it a latent need. Because
Wait,
as soon
sorry.
as they have that, then they would get back into their normal spending patterns, trying to balance out all the other payments that they have to fucking make. You got look, people that have managed their own household budgets for years will be able to understand exactly what I'm talking about very easy. But this is one of those things where you're wanting to have the conversation without that experience, and anybody having this conversation with you is going to get frustrated because you're not understanding the very basics of household financial management. And that is the basis in which you build a government. And the government right now is telling you that all this shit's possible, and it's fucking not. And how do I know it's not? Because if we continue the track that we're on, this shit's going to fucking fail. Do you not think that any other nation on the planet wouldn't love to take the mantle of being the global reserve currency? Don't you think that a lot of the conflicts around the world are centered around that very fucking argument? It's not like
I mean,
everything's
there's
just happy go
plenty of
lucky, but
countries
just
who wouldn't want to be the world reserve currency, but regardless, that's not governments aren't households. Governments are the issuer of their own currency. They don't have the same type of foreign
right. They
constraints that
can
the
issue money
households
like a
have.
credit card.
Sure, okay, but like again, what I'm trying to nail down here is whether or not these stimulus bills are going to increase demand from people.
No,
I would
they're
say
not.
absolutely. If we give people checks,
Yeah,
they are
I'll tell
going to
you what.
spend more
As
money.
soon as,
They-
as soon as you want to start telling me what it is that you think, you're not here to answer or have a question answered. You're here to tell me how you feel about a fucking thing, and I don't give a fuck how you feel about it. If you wanted a question answered, I'll answer your question.
Okay,
But
here's the
don't sit
question.
here
Okay?
and tell me how you fucking feel about it like I'm supposed to give a fuck when it's 12:07 past fucking midnight.
Do you think that income is a shifter of demand?
Absolutely.
Okay, do we agree
The
that
more
these
the more
stimulus
money that
checks?
someone makes, they tend to end up, buying things that they might not necessarily, therefore increasing a demand of a product. But all budgets start with the basics, right? You got to have a roof over your head, you got to have food, you got to have clothes on your back, and if you're in the United States, you got to have a vehicle to be able to get around, unless you're in some city that has a good infrastructure. Those are the basics that you have to take care of. Once those are taken care of, then extra money gets spent. But the majority of the population is getting far and away from the ability to be able to get outside of their basic needs, which is why we're at a point to where if you send out a stimulus bill, you will end up fulfilling a latent need, not an aggregate want or an aggregate need or whatever it is that you fucking called it, right? But it's a latent need, not an aggregate demand. That's what you called it, right?
You understand people's needs are counted in aggregate demand. Like if I spend money on food, even though it's a need, that's still counted in aggregate demand.
That is someone attempting to control the language to paint it how they wish. I am calling it by what it is because
Okay,
I
well,
live it. And so does a lot of other people in this fucking world. If somebody sits around and turns and gives me $2,000, right, just gives it to me. I got things that I need to get done, right? I don't get to go out and fucking, it's an aggregate demand as if it's going to somehow stimulate the economy in a way that's positive. It won't. People need to be able to earn the money to pay for those fucking latent needs, right? And we're not
okay.
talking about, the basic living things. We're talking about those other things like fucking tires for your car, you know, uh, fucking, maybe fucking, stuff for home repair. Might need some fucking drywall. You might need fucking Last America. I mean, there's a lot of shit you might, shit like that. But that doesn't actually the temporary stimulus of the spending doesn't solve anything. It only creates a fucking problem of inflation. Period.
Okay, wait. What you just said there, the temporary stimulus. Okay, that would seem to agree with me. The stimulus effect is that people are spending
It's
more money
not
because they have more money.
Jesus Christ, this is exactly why I don't talk to young kids, because as soon as you hear one fucking word, you jump on it like you understand the whole fucking thing, and you haven't even bothered to say, you know what, I'm going to go back and I'm going to get an education, right? And with that, I'm done talking. This has been very frustrating. I hope you take the time to watch the video that I put up. Okay?
Okay, I will. I appreciate the conversation. If you ever want to talk again, I know it doesn't sound like you like me, but if you ever want to talk again, I'm down.
I don't really
thanks for
like
coming
any.
on.
Look, I really don't like anybody. Just to be honest with you, right?
Okay,
Because
based.
I like people that want to learn about the history and how they got here instead of being so quick to jump on some fucking little tidbit about, oh, you agree with me, we should go spend money, blah, 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 and the government should do it, right? You're a fucking idiot if you think that. And that's exactly why history and how we got here is way more fucking important than these fucking candidates. Okay?
All right. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
See you later. Thanks. That was interesting. How do I... What would have been a better way to approach that conversation if we have so insanely different frameworks for viewing, for like for viewing, for like understanding the world. I don't like I'm using like the term aggregate demand, and I don't think he's like, well, people just use the money to spend on their needs. But that's counted in aggregate demand. I don't know how I could have possibly approached that. I don't have wood, so this is gonna be still super annoying to dig up. Use words too big for him. Interest equals money. We can never make up any either way. True. I don't think I don't know, and I don't understand. He kept like walking through. He kept walking through shit. What got him really bad. I was gonna address the other play teammate too, but he was like, short-term stimulus doesn't solve anything. I was like, hey, wait a minute. What you just said there, the stimulus you're referring to, is the like added money that people are spending. You didn't dumb it down for him, but you're on another level, brother. I didn't even get to do the thing I was going to run down. My thing was going to be, I asked him, do you think there's ever value to what I said? I said, do you ever think there's a positive trade-off to devaluing a currency? He said no. And I said, okay, do we agree that these types of stimulus bills that you're saying devalue currency are going to increase aggregate demand? And that was the rest of the conversation. The thing I was going to run down on was, okay, it increases aggregate demand. Hopefully we could have. I wish we could have gotten to that point. That these stimulus bills increase aggregate demand, and then we would have gone to, does an increase in aggregate demand mean a likely lower level of unemployment? Is unemployment going to go down? He's going to say, and then hopefully we would have gotten to a yes there. And it was like, okay, so it looks like here's one case, for example, where like devaluing a currency could have a positive effect here, where like we devalue the currency a little bit, but maybe unemployment goes down a lot. So we could like imagine a case, where like this devaluing a currency or whatever, the stimulus has a positive trade-off there. I want to watch this video. I feel like I'm gonna go, and I feel like after that conversation, I don't know how much. I don't know. It's 30 minutes long. It's not. This is 10 million views. Holy shit. 12 years later, still not even close to throwing in a disconcerting eye at the Fed and the entire system. This isn't by anyone. What the government does, 2 months that person will go to jail for about 66 different charges. feel like Phillips curve, like the Phillips head flat faster. Makes getting screwed look like a plot. Can you do a show on why 2% nominal inflation BS was started in New Zealand, Australia banks, how these made up numbers affected zip and effectively landed us in a debt cycle. I feel like this video is it's gonna be about this.
To understand recessions is through a babysitting co-op. In the 70s, congressional staffers agreed to babysit.
Fun, you balling in the likes department tonight, I see? Yeah, hell yeah. Are we? We have 4 likes in a live stream. Thank you, chat.
For one another by issuing coupons that entitled each couple to 1 hour of babysitting. Each couple started out with the same number of coupons, and the system was meant to be shockproof, as the system ensured every couple would spend the same amount of time babysitting as they received. But eventually there was a problem. Some couples began to save coupons to try to build up reserves for the future. This was necessarily accompanied by a reduction in the savings of other couples, since the coupons were never being spent and were never making their way back to the other couples. The result was a vicious cycle. Because there were less opportunities to babysit, more couples started saving their coupons, but this made it even harder to find opportunities to babysit, which incentivized even more couples to start saving their coupons. You get the picture. The co-op essentially went into a recession, but not because anyone was bad at babysitting, just because.
Wait, by the way, wait, I just realized everyone liked the fucking short stream, which is cool. Okay, I love my Vert Gang viewers. I'm just saying, I do also stream horizontally, but Vert Gang for life. Okay.
Because no one was spending coupons. Effective demand had fallen. What this illustrates is a concept known as the paradox of thrift, where an increase in the amount of individual savings leads to a decrease in aggregate demand, which in turn lowers the economy's total output, which lowers total savings. Your spending is just somebody else's income. If you start saving more, their income falls, which means they're going to save more, and this cycle repeats. In the co-op, the solution was easy. Print more coupons and give them to couples. With the greater number of coupons, couples were more willing to go out, which made babysitting opportunities easier to find, which incentivized other couples to go out more, and the cycle repeats. So next time you hear about the Fed printing money, maybe don't be so worried. Jay Powell has got your back. The easiest.
I feel like this video is gonna be just about that.
Thus was invented the pretended that England was